Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to the Bible Project podcast. And we've reached a bit of a milestone. We're at episode 100 of season 2 of our journey together through the Bible. Season 2 is of course covering the book of Genesis. Now, the plan here is to travel through the whole journey of the Bible, God willing, which probably could take 7, 10, even longer years, however long it takes, God willing. Now, if you're just dropping in and arriving at us today, there are two options available to you. You can go right back to season 1, where we'll begin by giving you an overview of the 66 books of the Bible and 66 short 6-minute podcasts, before then launching off in season 2, where we begin in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and this further series, then we begin this massive journey together, where we're looking at roughly average of 7-8 minute podcasts every day, Monday to Friday, sometimes Monday to Saturday, taking you all the way, Lord willing, through to the end of the Bible at some point in the distant future. So wow, what an amazing journey to be on together. And today we're at episode 100. We're up to Genesis chapter 12, and we're looking at verses 11 to 13. And if you remember, we're at the point where Abram is facing a choice. We left the text last week where Abraham was facing a dilemma and he needed to make a choice. And it seems to me that he had two possible choices to make at this time. Number one, he could have trusted the Lord and stayed where he was, and maybe that would have been a good option for him. The Lord had already revealed himself to him and provided for him up to this point. But facing the famine in the land, the second option that seemed to appear to Abraham would be that he could choose to leave the land, this place where God had placed him, and go into Egypt in the hope of finding food and water there. And we see that he makes the second choice, and it tells us he goes down to Egypt to live there. Now, to be fair to Abraham, the word translated as live is more accurately translated as sojourn. So it's possible that his plan was to stay there temporarily until the famine was over. Anyway, he arrives at the border of Egypt, and before he goes in, he pauses and he says this to his wife, and this is chapter 12, verses 11 to 13. And as he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is my wife, and then they will kill me. But they will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. That's interesting, isn't it? So he arrives at the border of Egypt and he says to his wife, we've got a problem. We've got a problem because you're a beautiful, attractive woman. Now, someone I knew who visited Israel a few years ago, one of the local tour guides was telling them about this story, and he pointed out that in some of the early Jewish writings, Sarai was not just described as being beautiful, but stunningly beautiful. Now, at that time, he said, when a woman's beauty was defined by the value of camels of all things, the normal price for a young, attractive, healthy wife was 5 camels. But in some of the ancient texts, she's described as being a 10-camel wife. Well, we'll leave that where it stands, but it paints a picture for us, doesn't it? And if we return to the text of the Genesis, which we have today, we can see even in our modern translations, the text is obviously drawing attention to and making an issue of the fact that she is a good-looking woman. And because of that, Abram feels afraid. So he comes up with a plan. And his plan is for her to say that she's his sister. I wonder how that will work out for them. This plan may appear to get Abraham out of trouble, but we can see it's probably going to get Sarah into all sorts of a different kind of trouble, isn't it? I feel it goes without the need to say that Abram is committing a sin, and some would say that this one is an absolute whopper. He's making a huge error of judgment, and clearly his motivation to do that is selfish. He's thinking about himself. Furthermore, I suspect that we could imagine that this wouldn't actually make Sarah feel particularly great, would it? So Abraham's plan is that he's going to lie, which means Abraham will fail, and he will fail catastrophically. And that, my friends, I think, is the important point to take from this story. That is the important point to take from these opening verses. He's not trusting the Lord. He's not remembering to hang on to God's promises and allowing them to keep him safe. He's now going to, by lying and trying to manipulate the situation, get himself and his wife into all sorts of serious problems. We can see it coming, can't we? We can see the trouble looming on the horizon that this decision will cause. But I think it's worth drawing attention to the fact that, we should remember that there is a little bit of Abraham in all of us, whether we be a man or a woman, because we all do things where we fail. We have all done things where we have failed to live up to the standard that the Lord has set. We have missed the mark. And maybe some of us have even let down those people that we love. So it's true, Abraham here is being sinful and selfish, and ultimately his motivation for acting that way was out of fear, which is the very opposite of faith. But the truth is, we can all be a little bit like that sometimes, particularly when we're scared or afraid. So the opening section in this passage is about the failure of Abram. And the second part of the story looks at the fascination that Pharaoh develops for Abraham's wife. Not surprisingly, when he believes that she is a free agent as a sister of Abraham. And we're going to take a look at that next time. So thanks for joining me. And just before I go, let me remind you that there's always a transcript available of every individual one of these talks on any audio version of the website, but you can also find links there on the Facebook or the YouTube video versions of the podcast as well. And all the links for all the various ways for meeting with us or contacting us, and the links to various platforms where this ministry is, are all available in the episode notes section of each and every podcast. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you all back here very soon on the Bible Project Daily Podcast. Bye for now.